Episode 126 of Australia's #1 marketing show. Listen in to this fireside chat I have with charisma expert Olivia Fox and discover how to stare like a lover, stand like a gorilla, and speak like a preacher.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day everyone, and welcome back to episode 126 of Australia's #1 marketing show. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, right there, whether you like it or not, are a motivated small business owner, and we are brought to you by, have a guess, the very good folk at Net Registry. If you didn't know by now, they will help you get your marketing sorted online. What about that opening little fronter I did? I call that a fronter, that little bit I do up the front before the intro. Stare like a lover, stand like a gorilla, speak like a preacher. Wow, what a good grab that Olivia, my guest, gave me, and I'll be touching on that more in a minute. Suffice to say, I'm knocking this episode over just prior to heading off on a long weekend, so I'll keep it short. It's been a big week in marketing for me. I'm back with my old mate James Schramko doing Freedom Ocean, which is another podcast that I do, and that's exciting. Just recorded an episode of that. I have had a wonderful week doing with my mastermind, Deep Dive Mastermind, been absolutely tremendous. It's a full house there, and I'm now adding to the waiting list for the mastermind on a Tuesday. I was going to introduce one on a Monday, and I'm just not quite ready to commit to it because it's quite onerous, and I want to give my absolute best when I do that, and the Tuesday one's proving so fantastic, and we're getting such great results. I just want to focus on that and really drive home what's happening on there. Great results. In fact, one of my mastermind members got up on a stage and sold from stage just a couple of days ago and sent me the most beautiful text. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. It says, it's official, I rock. I had people stopping me in the corridor after to say what a great presentation I did. Hopefully get a decent night's sleep tonight. Thanks so much, Timbo. It was an absolute hit. That's exciting because that's from a mastermind member who she came in not overly confident with her marketing, and she's starting to kick some absolute goals. And I love that because marketing is everything and everything is marketing. Hey, some stuff happening with Net Registry. Few things. They're writing some great blog posts at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. And they're asking me what the listeners want to hear about. They're going to write a blog post on domain names. So I've posted it at the Facebook for Small Business Big Marketing, the question, what questions you've got around domain names. And if you've got anything, that you'd love to have a blog post written about, got a marketing question you'd like answered, particularly in the area of online marketing, post it at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com or go to my Facebook. And if you post it, I can get the guys at Net Registry to write about it because they get your marketing sorted online. Also this week, and because podcasts aren't that time sensitive, I'm not going to run the competition here, except to say that at facebook.com/small business big marketing, I'm running a competition where Net Registry have given me a conference pass to an upcoming conference that's going on. It's worth about $500 or $600. So worthwhile connecting with me on the Small Business Big Marketing Facebook because there are prizes coming your way. Now, let's get stuck into my guest today. Olivia Fox is, I was going to say a fox, but that would be very, very inappropriate of me to say that. Suffice to say that she is a charisma expert, possibly world-leading charisma expert. And she has got some wonderful things to share with us, the small business owner, who would like to introduce charisma into his or her marketing strategy. Now, this is what I'm thinking. Not all of us are sitting around going, geez, I'd like to introduce charisma into my marketing strategy, because we probably didn't even realize that we could. We didn't realize that charisma was a marketing strategy, or for that matter, a marketing tactic. What's the difference there? But it is. And it is a really interesting way of bringing people towards you. Last week on the episode about content marketing, we talked about this concept of pulling people towards you and not pushing them away from you with advertising messages, but pulling them towards you by sharing of your knowledge through content marketing. Well, charisma is another way of pulling customers and prospects towards you. Olivia's bio is substantial. She writes for Forbes magazine, the Huffington Post, the New York Times, Bloomberg, Business Week. She's been on telly. She has lectured at Stanford, Yale, Harvard, MIT, the Marine Corps, War College, and the United Nations. Hey, the caliber of a guest on the Small Business Big Marketing Show is blowing my very small mind. It's an honour to have Olivia on the show. She was recommended by one of my wonderful listeners, Mick. So thank you, Mick, for putting Olivia up. In fact, Mick was the first one, and subsequent to me getting on the prior to me getting on the show, another couple of listeners also suggested I get Olivia on the show. Enough of that. Olivia Fox, charisma in your marketing. Please enjoy. Here she is. Olivia Fox, welcome to Small Business Big Marketing.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All the way from New York City.
Indeed. I'm more often on airplanes than I am home, but I think you could call New York my home base at the moment.
We'll do that. Now, you have been quoted as saying, and I love this quote, I am one of those awkward introverts for whom the whole human thing has never come easy. Now, Olivia, with such an impressive background, that feels a little bit hard to believe. Tell me more.
No, trust me, humans are just not my thing. They're just not my comfort zone. I do, by nature, I do a lot better. Send me in the middle of the woods on my own and I'm happy. But the advantage of that is that the people who are natural at social interactions don't necessarily know how they do that thing they do because they're naturals at it. Whereas people like me who are socially inept introverts, because we have to learn the human dynamics the hard way, we can then explain it to other people.
That's kind of reassuring, the fact that whatever we're going to talk about, which obviously we're going down the path of charisma, is can be learnt. That is reassuring. Just tell me, just cutting to the chase here, but do a lot of people feel like that?
Yes, quite a few. If you look at the new data that's coming out on introverts and extroverts, it turns out that introverts are actually the majority of the population, but our society, the Western societies in particular, are geared towards extroverts. And so introverts can end up feeling uncool or defective or like they don't quite match what the world outside seems to expect. And that's correct, but they shouldn't by that assume that they are wrong. It's just a different way of operating. And the brains of introverts and extroverts do process information differently.
Interesting. So now the reason for this interview, initially, a couple of listeners suggested, hey, get Olivia on. And when I looked into what you did, this whole charisma thing, I'm looking at going, how does it apply to a small business owner? And it became clear to me, at least, and I'm wondering what your view is, that if you can develop charisma, then it's going to be a real point of difference in a world of sameness.
Yeah, it's a pretty cheap marketing tool if you think about it, because charisma can be developed without really any financial investment, and the returns, anytime that human interactions are important in your business, which they are for most of us, the returns are quite large.
When do you think a small business owner could leverage charisma?
Negotiations, winning clients, when you're bidding for a contract. It's really any time when getting other people to like you and trust you is important.
Yeah, okay. I was a bit nervous about this interview, actually, because you actually suggest that we have a massive 2 seconds to win someone over. And I'm going, oh, my God, how do I start this interview? Am I cool? Am I funny? Am I just kind of just myself? You know, what do I do? That's because a guest a couple of episodes ago, let me just get that right. Yeah, 2 episodes ago, it was a public speaking guy. And he said, you know what they teach you at Toastmasters about get your hands out of your pocket, don't say look around the room, make eye contact. If you had to remember all those things when, in this case, public speaking, you'd just have a meltdown and forget what to say. You're telling me, in what I've read, is that we've got 2 seconds to make an impression.
Yeah, which is why really the prep work is more important than what happens You can't really control those first 2 seconds consciously. It happens too damn fast.
Yeah.
But the mental prep work that you do before a meeting is as important as the mental prep work that athletes do before a performance to get themselves in the zone mentally.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the mental prep work.
It's really just think of yourself as an athlete who's like, like a skier when you can see them rehearsing the slope or visualizing before they launch themselves down the slope, or a swimmer who's getting onto the starting block and you can really see them. They've got specific mantras or images that they get into to get themselves into a peak performance state. And in a way, you're going to do the exact same thing. You want to use whichever images or words or whichever patterns work to get you into the right mental state so that you can then emit charisma.
So what you're suggesting is a bit of kind of, I'd call it sort of future gazing. You're going into a situation. It might be a presentation. It might be a negotiation. It might be a coffee with a new client. You want to play that out in your mind beforehand?
Yes, you want to play that out in your mind beforehand. In addition, you want to do some internal research as to what can get you into the state you want to project. So if it's, for example, an emotionally difficult situation where you want to be able to project a lot of warmth and compassion and understanding, when, for example, one of your employees has had a death in the family, well, then you want to find within yourself which memories or which images get you into that state. And you get that into before you walk into the meeting. If it's a meeting where you want to project confidence, then you go back to a moment in your life when you felt absolutely triumphant and confident and top of the world, and you kind of tag that memory for retrieval just before you walk in the room.
So it's because in a sense you could go, well, this is all a bit manufactured and, it's not really me. But what you're suggesting is tapping into past experiences that will allow you to access, whether it be confidence, humour, compassion, whatever's needed for what you're about to walk into.
Exactly. It's first access and then transference, because once you've accessed that state, then you get to transfer it to the situation you're walking into.
Okay. I don't want to over-engineer this for my listeners, but I think what I get from it so far is that we've already got it. Some of us need greater reminding of this thing called charisma and how to access it. How do you define charisma?
So everyone's got different definitions. And for some people, it's that quality that when you walk into a room, everyone kind of they feel your presence and they go, wow, who's that? For others, it's the ability to get people to do whatever it is that you want them to do. I would say that all those definitions are correct. Mm-hmm. But going back to one thing that you mentioned, which is very, very accurate, most of us have experienced all the elements of charisma at one point or another. We've had moments of great warmth. We've had moments of complete presence. We've had moments of complete confidence. And so indeed, it's being able to access those and bringing back the state, the mental state, and thus the body language, and then combining those into your current situation. That is what gives you charisma. So for example, for warmth, one of the biggest warnings I give in the book is that you actually cannot fake warmth, because it is so tied to body language, and we really can't fake body language. You can't control it consciously. So warmth is one emotion that you really need to learn how to access from the inside.
Okay. Can we role play that?
Sure.
Go.
So
I love putting myself on the spot. Totally.
So you've got a decently warm voice already, but if you want to up the warmth, it's really thinking about a situation. I don't know if you have kids, but think about a being, whether it's a human or a pet, that you have great affection for.
Yep.
And once you get into that mental model, then you can say whatever sentence you're going to say, whether it's something about the washing machine or something about the current contract, but let the emotion color your voice.
Okay. So I do have kids and I do a lot of public speaking, right? So what are you suggesting if I want to get out on that stage and ensure that I exude warmth, that I spend a moment prior to going up on stage thinking about my kids?
Yeah. Zig Ziglar, who was one of the US's prominent public speakers, was known to, before he went on stage, repeating hundreds of times, I love my audience, I love my audience, I love my audience, to really get himself into feelings of actual love for his audience.
That feels he's brilliant, the late Zig Ziglar, but that feels fake to me.
Yeah. And so it's whatever works for you.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, other people access gratitude. Other speakers are very grateful to their audience for giving them the opportunity, or if you're a paid speaker, the salary that enables them to live. And so they access feelings of gratitude, which will then of course show up as warmth on your face. Mm-hmm. Gratitude has the additional good effect that it gives you not just warmth, it also gives you confidence, because gratitude focuses you on everything that you already have in your life.
It's verging on the spiritual, isn't it?
It actually is, but I guess I'm a pragmatic spiritualist where I'm using those emotions and those spiritual tendencies for a business outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Tell me, does charisma apply? Is it? I think I know the answer to this, but you talk about it a lot in the flesh, when you're meeting someone, when you're presenting, when you're doing a deal, but clearly it's got to come through when you're podcasting. What about in your writing? Has it got to come through in all mediums?
So as long as there is a human body language aspect, whether it's video, whether it's audio, then yes, charisma matters. When you start going in writing form, then influence and persuasion becomes more important. And yes, the warmth is important, but Robert Cialdini's book, the classic Influence, Psychology of Persuasion, that would be a better resource if you're looking to write powerful emails than my book would be.
Yeah, okay. What's the difference between charisma? I talk a lot about personality to my clients, to anyone who listens to this show. It's so important to be clear on the personality you're creating around in order to create a brand. What's the difference between personality and charisma, Olivia?
So personal brand is really important, and having a clear personal brand that is well adapted to both your audience and your goals is great. But a variety of personal brands can be effective depending on the audience and depending on the goals. If you look at charisma, it turns out that universally, those three elements do form charisma of warmth, presence, and power. And in fact, they are hardwired into the human brain. One of the most interesting studies I saw was the Princeton neuroscience findings on first impressions, where they looked at this is exactly what we evaluate people. Our brain evaluates these traits in people when it first encounters them.
Okay, so one's hardwired, one's learned?
Exactly. So, and one's hardwired and in essence pretty universal in terms of which components will work, even though, of course, culture by culture, the signs of these components will differ. The other one, personal branding, is really a question of what is it adapted to your personal offering in this situation.
Right.
What's your unique selling proposition? What's your unique value?
Okay. Now, I love this. I love your answer to this. I've done a bit of research on you, but what's the number one thing to do to increase one's charisma?
I wish I had a single answer for you, but it really depends who the person is, because some people, the most important thing for them is going to be to increase their focus, their presence, because they're, for example, constantly looking away or distracted. Other people, they're going to be lacking warmth. The guy I was coaching this morning, he's clearly present in the conversation. He's confident, but he has zero warmth, so he's not likable. Someone else, it might be that they're giving too many signs of deference, and so they need to communicate more power. So it really depends as to what you personally need to emanate more of. The quote that I love, which is stare like a lover, stand like a gorilla, and speak like a preacher. Well, please understand that was, of course, for the American press, which loves sound bites. The more provocative, the better.
I think we're the same. We love a good sound bite.
So that is actually technically accurate. What that means is that giving people warm, full eye contact as if they are the most amazing person you've ever met, combined with...
So that's your stare like a lover?
Yes.
Yeah.
Combined with the big gorilla stance, which is essentially just taking up a lot of space with your body language, having a wide stance, broad shoulders. And if you combine that with a very confident tone of voice, but at the same time, if you think of a preacher, it's a pretty good combination. He's got both power because, he has the might of God behind him, and he simultaneously has warmth because he really cares about this. He's saving souls here. So the preacher intonation of voice is a pretty good example of the different elements put together.
What if you just... I get that, and I find that a really useful kind of three things: the lover, the gorilla, and the preacher. And I can use that. But what if you are exceptionally okay? So I'm 6'4", got a big voice, and kind of a bit out there, more extroverted than introverted. Some would say. People listening to this show are nodding their head. What if you are 4'4", have the voice of a budgerigar, and have never been to church?
The physical height is obviously something that you're not going to change, and you can still emanate a fair amount of power and confidence, even with a small stature. So people always give the example of Napoleon. He wasn't actually ridiculously short compared to the standards of the time, but he was fairly short. But he emanated in his body language complete confidence and the utter certainty that he was the leader to take them to, well, in this case, the 100-day march. Mm-hmm. In terms of voice, this is where it's actually worth getting a voice coach. Mm-hmm. Because the effect of your voice, for example, nasal voices sound a lot colder. And there's really nothing you can do about that. You lose degrees of warmth just by having a nasal voice. So either you can bump up the level of warmth in your face dramatically to compensate, or you can get a voiceover coach, the people who are coaching the actors who do just voiceovers, mm-hmm. and get them to help you have a more rich and resonant tone of voice and less nasal. Okay.
So practical things you can do. Four primary charisma styles, Olivia. You describe them in your book. Could you tell us what they are, and do we all have to know how to occupy every single one of them, or can we go, I'll just take one, thanks?
So again, the four styles of charisma were also something that it's a useful heuristic. It's something that's useful to break charisma down, but it's just an organizational system. It's not truth. It's frankly, Penguin asked me, can you please break it down into four styles so it's easier to understand? So I did.
That's honesty.
First style. Yeah, well, the first style is focus, which is where focus charisma is when you put the emphasis on the presence element of charisma. Mm-hmm. And in that case, this is one that introverts do very well on, because it's how well you can focus and give the other person the spotlight. Mm-hmm. Kindness charisma is very useful in difficult situations. This is when you put the focus. The strongest element is warmth. And so, for example, the Dalai Lama is a great example of that. Mm-hmm. He just radiates acceptance and loving kindness to all around. And another one would be authority charisma or power charisma, which essentially is the one where you put the focus on power, which we really evaluate through confidence. Now, with any of the charisma styles, these and more, there are actually many more that I haven't put in the book. It's less a question of being able to access all of them, more a question of accessing all those that work for you.
Yeah, right. So it's certainly worth, I think even as an exercise to anyone listening, just to think about those people you've met and why, and who's appealed to you and who's repelled you, and kind of look into what they were giving out and what you can learn from that.
It is. You also can, and yes, the book gives a lot of that. In fact, on my website, they can download the first couple of chapters for free, and mm-hmm. they'll get, you get a lot out of it already. It's absolutely worth practicing all the various styles of charisma. What you want to do is in low stakes environments, when it doesn't really matter how well you perform, try out styles of charisma that are really new and different and uncomfortable, and practice them. In a high-stakes environment, you really want to stick to your forte, to what you're already good at, to your signature strengths.
Okay, that's a great example. Where high-stakes environments, stick to what you know, but give me examples of where I could go and practice something that would be a little bit more unfamiliar to me.
Sure. So if you've got kids and you happen to attend the Parent-Teachers Association meeting, or a homeowners association where it really doesn't matter how well you perform on the charisma meter, that's a good one to try out new behavior styles and new body language.
Well, I don't know. I want to be loved in the parents' associations meetings.
Well, fine. Then that's a high stakes for you. Try out. I mean, when I say low stakes, it can be anything from the cashier at the supermarket to your dry cleaner.
Yeah, right. Great examples. Nothing to lose.
Exactly.
Who is the most charismatic person you've ever met, where you've just gone? Because I reckon you'd be a hard judge. You'd be hard to win over. Where have you just gone?
I might. The most charismatic people I've met were unfortunately not big names that people would know.
Okay, so tell us about the person then. Who they blew you away? Why?
In this case, it was a combination of kindness and presence, and this person in particular emanates. He's kind of a Dalai Lama type. He wrote the book Search Inside Yourself for Google. His name is Meng, and he's one of the early Googlers, and he's his official title at Google is Jolly Good Fellow.
Oh, I love that.
He's awesome. And of course, his subtitle reads, Which Nobody Can Deny. So Meng is just he's a profoundly spiritual guy and a Buddhist practitioner of a lifetime. And so when you meet him for the first time, he will often emanate such warmth and kindness and also a complete presence, which is not surprising because he practices mindfulness God knows how many hours a day. So that would be one of the people where he had kindness, charisma just oozing out of him.
Did he know?
I've told him. But I know he realizes a little bit of the effect he has on people because Meng has a fan club by now. He's also fairly close to the Dalai Lama, actually. Mm-hmm. But it's always hard. So having learned charisma, I did realize, having learned it, when I switch it on and switch it off, I can feel the difference. And sometimes when I forgot to turn it off, people can have weird reactions. Mm-hmm. But people like Meng, who have probably grown up always being like this, they've never felt what it's like to be not charismatic. So they don't know that they're different from other people.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I'd like to interview Meng.
He's great. I'll put you in touch if you want. He's a fascinating individual.
That'd be wonderful. Do you find it, given what the trade you're in, you're always expected to be, I'm guessing, I was expecting someone to come on the phone charismatic, and you've delivered.
Thank you.
Is that a pressure? Are you aware of it?
So in conferences such as actually I shouldn't name it. There's a secretive would-be elite conference in the United States where I am asked to speak more than the average speaker. So they sometimes have me speaking once or even twice a day and solo. And in those cases, I have to be on for 4 days straight. So being an introvert, I usually crash for about 10 days afterwards. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons that I fought tooth and nail with the publisher to not have my photo published on the dust jacket of the book is precisely because, again, I'm an introvert. I don't want to be on all the time. I certainly don't want to have to be charismatic all the time. So yes, I guess the short answer is that there definitely is an expectation, and it's one that I was wary of, and therefore I will seek to keep my photos off dust jacket covers for as long as I can.
But what if you, okay, you've got to go into that conference. It's an important, sounds like one of your bigger gigs of the year. What if you've had a really bad week in the lead up to it? We all have bad weeks. We all have bad days. We've got to dig deep. How do you do that?
So the first thing is know yourself, and know how much this is going to take out of you. Because you really have to consider yourself as a marathon runner, and you really think, is this worth it? In the sense of, think ahead of what this is going to cost you in terms of energy and recoup time, and think of in the days after the conference, can you have the downtime you need? Mm-hmm. And the outcome of this conference, is it worth putting in this much emotional investment? Mm-hmm. And once you've made that decision, then, there are a couple of interesting tricks that you can have. Staying away from sugar is a smart thing to do because sugar does trigger an emotional roller coaster in us, so it's harder to stay emotionally stable.
Mm-hmm. Agree with that.
Caffeine, that really depends on how sensitive you are. But if you're an introvert, taking breaks solo, alone time breaks every 2 hours at most is one of the smartest things you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That whole being aware of yourself and what works for you. I'm exploring at the moment the fact that by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm just hitting a wall, and
exactly.
I'm completely non-productive, unproductive. So it's like instead of trying to push through, and I'm sure there's some coaches out there that would say, Timbo, break through those walls, mate. But, just can't, and so I stop and I might come back for an hour after dinner or something. But, being aware of what works for you, and I guess that's from a charisma point of view. It's a cliche, but everyone talks about, and in fact, I think you even talked about it yourself, Bill Clinton. I love the fact that,
he's a master.
He is. Like, I mean, I never met the guy, but watched enough of him. And I think you talk about the fact that anyone who meets Bill Clinton in the lead up may well dislike him. That same person having met him will dislike him, but whilst you are with him, you love him and will do anything for him.
Yeah, he really has that magical touch. Again, this is someone for whom this is natural, and there are stories of him in kindergarten already learning how to put the spotlight on other people.
You can't learn that.
That one, it's. I tend to compare learning charisma to learning how to drive. Not everyone's going to become a Formula One race car driver, and I will always be a terrible driver. But I've learned enough about driving to usually get myself from point A to point B without too much damage. And in the same vein, though not everyone's going to become Bill Clinton, everyone can learn enough charisma to see a measurable difference in their business.
I think that's a point. I've been guilty of this, and when the putting the pressure on oneself of trying to be like someone else, man, that is a nightmare. That is a dead-end street.
So you need to be as kind and patient as the Dalai Lama, as charismatic as Bill Clinton, and as financially successful as Bill Gates. Good luck with that one.
Yeah, thanks for that. Olivia, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on Small Business Big Marketing. I would love it if could you send us all away with a tip or two, as if you haven't given us some already, but like if we're going to go, you know what, I'm going to work on this charisma thing. What should we do?
Well, the biggest ROI that you can get usually is increasing presence in conversation. And one of the most quirky but most effective tips for that is to focus on the physical sensation in your toes. When you focus on your toes for just a split second, it brings you very physically back in the moment. And then, of course, as soon as you've done that, you get back the conversation with someone else. But pay attention in conversations with people. If you find that you're thinking about something else, focus on your toes and get back the conversation. That will already increase your level of charisma quite a bit.
Sorry, I was just focusing on my toes. I lost you there. Didn't know what you said. No, not true. Olivia Fox, author of The Charisma Myth, thanks for being part of the Small Business Big Marketing Show.
It's absolutely been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
There it is, folks. That is charisma right there, if ever I've seen it. And now you know how to stare like a lover, you know how to stand like a gorilla, and you know how to speak like a preacher. Well, if you don't know how to, at least you know that it's an important thing that you should be practicing. Hey, thank you. Big thank you to Olivia Fox for appearing on the Small Business Big Marketing Show. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, it's a different kind of spin on things, hey, but that's what this show's all about. Don't expect the normal. If you want to check out Olivia's website and what she has to offer in developing your charisma, go to askolivia.com. I will also put it in the show notes for episode 126 of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. 3 learnings I got from that interview with Olivia, that fireside chat, as I call them. Charisma is a point of difference. It is. Like in a world of sameness, we small business owners have to look for ways of differentiating ourselves from the competition. Therein lies one, charisma, point of difference. Number 2, it can be learned. That's kind of reassuring. And in fact, I like to think that we could maybe also reflect on what other things we think to ourselves as small business owners responsible for the marketing of our business. What else can be learned? Sometimes we think, they're good at that because they're good at that. But they probably learnt it, So the fact that charisma can be learned, I think, is a great thing. And I certainly already do this, but I look to people in the public eye and learn from them. I'm actually about to share a stage in the next month or so in Sydney with Andrew Denton. Not at the same time, but he's speaking at the same conference I am. Now, Andrew Denton is a hero of mine, an interviewing hero of mine. Overseas listeners, look up Andrew Denton. He's kind of like the Parkinson of Australia. So Parkinson's an English interviewer. I don't know what the American equivalent is, but so Denton, I watch Denton. I look at his charisma. I look at how he goes about things. So identify a public figure that you like and learn from them. Third thing is don't underestimate the vibe you give out. Yeah, that energy. Now some of us are into the more rational, some of us are into the more emotional, some of us are into the woo-woo. I reckon there's a bit of a balance, and I think we should recognise every single one of those levels. And, the energy we give out, the vibe we give out, that's all about our charisma. And how is that impacting on our selling process, on our marketing, on our networking? As business owners, we represent our brand, and it's so important that we kind of have self-awareness, I guess. Very important. Enough from me. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. Go and head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and send me an email or a voicemail because I'd like to hear from you. And I am stacking up a lot of email and quite a few voicemail for upcoming shows. Sorry if I haven't got back to you because they are piling up. I've been busy, but I promise I will get to them. In fact, I'm even intending as I head off for a long weekend to get my lovely wife to drive as I tackle some email. So that would be a cool thing. I have also just re-added an old product that I used to offer called Spotlight. And if you go to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, on the right-hand side, you'll see a banner that is Spotlight. And you know what? It is where I put your business and only your business under the Small Business Big Marketing Spotlight. You share some marketing materials with me. I give you a bit of tough love, and then I'd create an entire episode of Small Business Big Marketing purely dedicated to your business. So that is the Small Business Big Marketing Spotlight. Check it out at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Thank you very much to Net Registry for being a part of this show, for making it happen. Head over and have a look at netregistry.com.au. They will get your online marketing sorted. I'm Timbo Reid. You're a motivated small business owner, and this has been Australia's #1 marketing show. Love your work, guys. Bye.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.